Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you could be joining us from. Miss Kim here, joining you live from Gaborone, Botswana, a beautiful country right by Southern Africa. And we're back to you softly as we wait for one of our guests. So I'm just going to play for you a beautiful song as we wait. And please do tell us where you're joining us from. Thank you. Lost in the we see. Don't even want to do this anymore. Show what you mean to be nasty. Thank you. Thank you for your patience with me and with my crew. I think one of our speakers is having a technical challenge, but we're just going to get started. That was a special song from my lovely daughter, who is absolutely in love and has always been in love with Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. I hope you liked the song. So please do tell us where you're joining us from. We are live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. Tell us where you're joining us from and tell us, make a comment on what you think about the topic for the day and why it's critical and important for us to be having this conversation. And yes, we usher in our guest, one of the guests for the day, Dr. Raz. Welcome, Dr. Raz. We're just having a little bit of a disco. We're enjoying some lovely music as we waited for you. So, do you want to say hello to
Hello,
our
Miss
guest?
Kim. Hello,
Mike?
Miss Kim. Hello, guests. Greentech Rangers or Rangers, everyone in the world.
Could you mute because we can't hear you?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Check your tech
No.
because I want to believe it's on my tech. So we're waiting for Dr. Raz, a neuroscientist Yeah, I think there's a technical problem. We've lost him. I see my signal is not very strong, but we're just gonna try and make do with this. So yes, just to kickstart the show, I see Dr. Ross, you're back. To kickstart the show, I am humbled and privileged to be in the space of team education, where we're looking at the most critical need we have within the critical need we have is skills and accessibility of those skills. And that's one of the things we'll be discussing within today's show as we look into the struggles we're having as a global community and as a continent. Dr. Russ, you can unmute and say hello.
And hello, everyone. Hello, Miss Kim. How are you?
We still can't hear you.
Hmm. Okay, I'll
Oh,
try
could it
one
be
more.
me? Hello?
Yes, I'm speaking. I'll go back one more time.
Sorry, I think it's me. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Miss Sally.
Okay, welcome, Miss Paula. We can
Thank
start.
you.
Yeah, we can start with your intros as we get. I think Dr. Ras would be having some technical issues. We're just getting started and ushering in our guests and requesting them to tell us where they're logging in from. We're live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. And it's
Mo-
another great day. Yeah, it's another great day for us to look into where are we at, where are we heading to, how can we make this world a better place. Over to you, Miss Paula.
yes. So blessed day, everyone near and far. I am in my name. Let me start with my name. My name is Marjorie Paula Norales. Please call me Paula. I am located in the sunny country of Belize in the tropics by the Caribbean Sea. I am a board member of Destination Imagination Africa and a co-founder of the Happiness Tribe. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Should I be adding anything else? I mean, besides the fact, and I have a guest speaker with me, my mother, who's nearby sipping tea and speaking about a new world, new area. And she's absolutely correct. It is a new world. It's changing rapidly. And so the work that we're doing at Destination Imagination and what we're doing with this Green Ranger Boot Camp is really transformative, and it's going to continue to be transformative. I'll pass it over to you while Mom is trying to get my attention. Thank you.
I think it would be really nice to hear from Mom. She has such a beautiful voice.
It is. But Mom is sometimes here and sometimes she checks completely out. So we just take what we can get. We love and appreciate her, and we do whatever we can to make her happy and comfortable.
That's beautiful. Okay. And Dr. Russ, do you want to take over? The mic is all yours.
Guys, hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ross. That's RAS because I am really a scientist. I am in College Park, Georgia, which is outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. And I am a neurotrauma endocrinologist. I study the brain and when things go wrong. And I'm also a STEM educator or STEM stream. So science, technology, research, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Hello, Miss Kim. How are you doing?
I'm good,
Hello, Miss
thank you.
Paula.
Yeah, this is becoming a fun club, right? As it should. It's where we play and have fun with kids, and this keeps us young, keeps us going, and keeps us upbeat and ready to face the future. So yes, this is our second episode, still discussing green tech rages and trying to truly understand why should we get into these. There's a huge concern, which I believe this concern is global, as we look into the disruption that's happening with AI, the disruption that's happening with climate change, and of course, geopolitics. And this is when we see the resilience of the human spirit. We're able to navigate, we pay the price dearly, and especially when we are caught unawares. So right now, we've all had the buzz that, and we've seen it. People are losing jobs, and truly, we've seen there's so much we can leap from leveraging AI, and there's so much that can be compromised. Now, we're sitting in a position where I'm representing a continent that has the youngest population. 60% of our population in Africa are youth. We're looking at by 2050, we're going to be the superpower, as we project and hope to be, that can provide the entire global community with workforce. That can only happen if we start acting now. The time is now. And of course, looking at all the other factors that could be affecting our progress. So, can we just collaborate? And what does that mean? And how can we ensure that we can create a better world? We're looking at a situation where we can be able to plant a seed on a tree that we may never see to enjoy the shade for that tree. And this takes you, I, and the other person collaboratively looking at what do I have to offer? Is it some mentorship that's needed within my next door neighbor? Can I get on stage and train some children? We all have something to give. And this is why we call it a call for action, getting to ensure that we can all take it as our responsibility to make sure we can create a better world. So I'm just going to give the mic to Miss Paula first, who can take us through the first slide of we can make it conversational, and you're free to ask us questions because we know this is a topic that's very close to your heart with Dr. Russ, and you've put in a lot of energy and effort as our partners, as our donors, our sponsors, to ensure that we can change the narrative. And we're looking at not just within the continent, but even the global community. We have children from other marginalized communities that every day they wake up not knowing, am I going to get a meal? Can I at least access some skills today? And we want to make sure that there's no child that's left behind. Thank you. And over to you, Miss Paula.
Thank you, Miss Sally. Thank you so much. So let's just start with what the Greentech Rangers Boot Camp is going to entail. But before I even get into that, I want to speak about why this is so important, right? The future of learning really is about full immersion. It's really about technology. It's about how we interact with that technology. And so this Green Tech Ranger Boot Camp really is about not just introducing technology to the children, but how to use that technology in relationship to prevent, mitigate climate change and create resilience across the board. But in the process, the children will actually be learning about said technology, a variety of technologies. And there's some exciting things that are going to take place at this boot camp that Dr. Roz is going to speak about. So I won't touch on that. But this immersive learning, the future of learning at the Mokolodi Nature Reserve is going to be so exciting for children. Children love to do things and they learn by doing. And so this immersion, this full immersion in nature with technology, with support of those who understand how to use this technology is going to be vital. Imagine your child immersed in a world of wonder where technology meets nature. That's just what this is about. You know, thank you, Mom. Well, we know how important that is, moving about, learning, getting involved, learning how to do by doing, and actually learning about what nature is about and why it's important to them. So this is why this boot camp is going to be so important. I hope that I'm touching on the subject matter. I don't really want to read the slide. I really want to explain to our listeners near and far why this matters so much. You know, the things that are going to be covered are things like, and in depth, I may add, things like virtual reality. You know, that is going to be integrated into this boot camp. You know, creating sustainable solutions for a greener future. What is a greener future? You know, using what we have naturally in nature to help human beings meet their needs. and technology is going to be playing a major role in that. So this really, I think, is cutting edge. I believe there's not a whole lot of learning modalities such as this one with the topics that it's covering, and so it matters. Over to you, Dr. Roz. Can you hear me, Dr. Roz? Can you hear me?
Dr. Russ, looks like you're on mute.
Um, muted. Hello, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We certainly can.
Okay, excellent. I was like absolutely cutting edge, and this is important. Not only is it important, it's important and it's timely. So we're talking about Green Tech Rangers Boot Camp, right? So a boot camp is always an opportunity to better yourself, to learn, to engage in activities that's consolidated that you can measure impact at the end. So that's what the boot camp is about. So within a 2 to 3 day or 2 day, what is it, 3 days and 2 nights experience, right? So within that time frame, we have activities for our young folks who are actually going to be learning about technology, but more so how technology is impacting and integrating into the actual world around them. Because what happens is there's a fear out there, right? And that technology and AI is taking over and the world is going to a machine place and Mother Nature is something different. But what we're doing here is special because we're saying, yes, technology is the future, but you can use that technology to actually help in SDGs, which are sustainability developmental goals, right? To being able to make sure that your activities have a positive impact on your community, but not in a passive way, but in an active way. And I think that's what's really special and important about the Green Tech Rangers Boot Camp is we're talking about green technology, right? What do I mean? Well, we have technologies like we think about drones, we think about AI technology, software that can look at the weather, right? That can look at the crops and how it's being harvested, that's taking all of this data. We're now applying that to the actual agriculture. So we're talking about ag tech here, right? Not only getting outside and breathing the air, but understanding, analyzing the air that you're breathing and what does it mean. Something like this is real special right now because, for a perfect instance, in Georgia, right where I'm at, the state of Georgia in the United States, in the last 3 weeks, there have two biolab, which is biological laboratory explosions, right, in within the state, and actually one of them is have a summer camp on this, but because of that people have to quarantine in their house. Why? Why do you have to quarantine in your house? What does that mean? How impact in the short run, impact in the long run. So understand technology and your environment to understand to where it's not, technology is something that's mystical and so far fetched and is the other man's problem. It's the youth's opportunity, right? And that's what these kids get an opportunity to experience and see. So if you take a look at this picture as I'm speaking about these opportunities, understanding again software and machinery, how does processing your crop and harvesting and picking the fruits or cutting the leaves and all the different things you have to do, compost and just the different things associated with building and farming, right? Which is the beginning of nutrition, and every single person has to eat. So it's that core and essential, right? We talk about famine, think about global food security, local food security. What does that mean? Well, the technology can help you understand all these things that I'm saying if it does sound foreign to you, right? And so that's what this is about, is getting the kids out and let them know that not only is the technology accessible, but their environment is accessible, and their ability to impact their environment is even more accessible if they understand the technology. Ms. Kim?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Russ. Thank you, Miss Paula. Yes, indeed. And this is critical. And that's more the reason we need to keep on amplifying our voices and making sure we can get heard. Now, as we look into why we need to get into this and the most critical lessons, I'd like Ms. Paula, can you speak to cybersecurity and why at this point in time we're so much getting into looking at this the cyber crime that's happening and looking at it's inevitable for our children to be online, and how do we blend in that with mental health and wellness for children? What skills, what training would you say that this is a must have within this boot camp, and these are skills that are much needed by these children?
Thank you, Miss Sally. That's an excellent question because as we've been speaking so far, technology is inevitable. It is part of what is going on. It is our reality. It isn't something that we can hide from. And to be honest with you, the children are more deeply immersed in this technology, especially social media, communication technology, etc. They are more immersed in this medium than we, the older people, are. And so while it is an absolute necessity and it is something fantastic, it does have its downside. So cybersecurity isn't just about adults. It's really about the protection of our children. And the only way for us to protect our children in terms of how they interact with this technology is really going to be contingent upon right knowledge. And what do I mean by that? I mean activities that actually get the children to understand and to realize that there are dangers even in the digital space, so to speak. You okay, Mom?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So for anyone who didn't know, Mom is sitting here with me enjoying this as well. So just checking in with her. So how does this boot camp begin to address that, right? So it's designed to assist and actually to trigger and unleash the inner explorer of the children, right? So hands-on STEAM activities is going to be the first one. I know Dr. Roz is going to want to delve deeper into this. So I'm just going to go over it. Cutting edge technology, technology integration. How do you use it? How do you use it to mitigate risk in terms of the environment? How do you use it to manage natural resources? All those things are necessary. They are important, especially for this upcoming generation because they're going to inherit all of this. You know, being out in nature, it's part of nature's playground. Children love to have fun while they're learning, and so this program addresses that. Adventure. Oh, well, need I say more? Adventure is actually an excellent thing for all of us, whether you're old or you're young. But imagine what the children is going to experience with the drones, with understanding what is in the nature, the flora, the fauna, how it works, how you can actually use technology to protect the beauty, to protect what they have access to. So this is why this is important. And the cybersecurity component, I cannot, let me revisit that because I cannot really express the importance of that. Anything that we allow our children to engage in, everything has a side effect. There's an old saying, you know, my mother says it all the time, too much of anything, even a good thing, can be detrimental to your well-being. Well, the way that we mitigate that, especially with our children, is really to provide them the knowledge and the skill sets that they need to be able to navigate these spaces safely and securely. So cybersecurity for children is important. You know, there are predators online. There are people that are really not looking out for the best interest of our children. And so to get this information, for them to have this knowledge and to have this information and understand that certain things are unacceptable when they're online, and if those things occur, tell someone about it, you know, how to manage their pages, all of that is critical. So I think this is a necessity. This is not just an option, it's a necessity. Yes, Mom, not only us, but our children need to be equipped for that too. So I hope that answers the question, Miss Sally. Dr. Roz, I'm sure you'd like to add to this. Take it away. Can you hear me, Dr. Roz? Is your mic on?
Dr. Russ is on mute.
He's probably talking. I can't see if he's speaking. Go ahead, Miss Sally, until you
I
realize
said
he's on.
he's not. Oh, Dr. Russ. Dr. Russ needs fish. Now we have to be on a campaign for getting fish for Dr. Raz.
Oh my God, don't start. Oh, that's our
So,
resident physician and brain doctor. We love him.
yeah,
Go ahead, Miss
yeah.
Sally.
Oh, and he's back.
I'm
Um,
speaking.
okay,
It's the
thank you. Welcome
signal,
back.
though. It looks like the signal is going in and out. Go ahead, Dr. Roz. I'll mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you, Miss Paula. That was wonderful. As you spoke about the need for cybersecurity, but I wanted to bring it more even remedial than that, right? Because when we think about cybersecurity, again, you think global or national threat and these kind of issues, which are not only a digital issue, but a legal issue. But in cybersecurity, there's also just maintenance and making sure everything go right because you got to think about, or if you understand what a cybersecurity analyst is, right? They have different levels and many different levels. And if you don't know, you can go back and watch our episode. I believe it's episode 50, maybe, but we have some cybersecurity episodes you can go back and watch for the Happiness Tribe there that we've recently done for our Sunday LinkedIn audio room. But cybersecurity is simple as this. If you have now, what can you do that's not digital, really? Or what do you have to do or that we engage in activities in society as individuals, right? That is not eventually going to be completely digital. Now you think about food and how you order your food. Everyone knows and thinks about Grubhub and all these different things, right? You think about how do you get around, right? How taxis used to be. It's all digital now. Now you think about telehealth and telemedicine, right? So how do you look for jobs or even search for jobs? Yeah, there's a physical part of it, but most of it is digital. There's a heavy digital component. So within that, thinking about financing and money, currency. Well, just making sure things go right in all of those areas, right? From education to health to health and medicine, all the way down to finance to even your daily activities. I'll take it as far as even your personal life. Think about friends and dating. Now, a majority of your friends is that people you met physically or someone you met online. And in our society now, the way friendships are made and even relationships are started out digitally. So maintaining the activities in these areas, maintaining a safe space in these areas is also cybersecurity, right? Understanding a digital space and maintaining, as you imagine, a cross guard would crossing individuals in traffic, right? It's not necessarily anyone's breaking the law, but you have to guide to make sure things flow in a certain way that it makes sense and everyone is safe. So I think about like remedial, these kids can understand how to cross the street and how to be a cross guard in the terms of cybersecurity. Then when it comes to how to protect yourself personally, what you're doing personally begins to make more sense.
I agree with you, Dr. Roz. May I, Miss Sally, can I jump in here?
Please. Yes, please, Miss Paula.
I agree with you totally. But here's the thing that's important. I'm in Belize. Belize is a developing nation. It's really a third world nation according to, the statistics. But everyone, all the children seem to, even if they don't have their own telephones, they're on their parents' phones. And so this device that we hold that I'm on now in my hand really is a gateway to the rest of the world. The thing about this though is as you peer into and interact with the digital space actually has an access into your personal life. And that is my concern with our children. So I think the critical piece here is really equipping our children so that they understand the dangers in terms of who's communicating with them, the conversations that is being attempted from outside of the digital space, or I should say from inside of the digital space, as reaching into their world. And so as a parent, as a grandparent, this kind of training, I believe, would be critical for my children and my grandchildren and the children that are going to be attending this boot camp, and they're going to be a part of it. Because what it does is it begins to, I wouldn't say insulate, but inculcate, build into them the idea that just because this is a device that you're holding and it's supposedly not real, it can become quite real quite quickly. And so this is so important that I think that, we need more of these things. We need an actual coordinated attempt and coordinated effort in getting our children to understand that the things that they're interacting with, almost every child here is on Facebook. But children aren't the only ones on Facebook. There are adults on Facebook too. And so if we don't take the time out and really support these kinds of programs that support our children's digital literacy and safety. I love it when you talked about the crossing guard, Dr. Roz, because it's the same thing here. You're crossing into the digital space, and you need to as a child and even as an adult, we need to understand the pitfalls. So a program such as this is so instrumental, and it really is cutting edge. And so I support it because of that reason, and you should too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Paula, you mentioned support and supporting the program. Miss Kim, how can we support? How does support um, be bestowed upon this program?
Thank you, Dr. Ras. Yes, a very good question. We seek support in many different levels, and there can be support in kind, like what you get a lot from our diaspora friends, including both of you. There's support in promoting, marketing the program. There's support in providing the courses. There's, of course, a lot of support that we look for financially. And the financial support, it's where we get sometimes it would be you're looking at currently supporting Palana, it's going for about $250. And we request it can be $20, it can be $10, something that you can contribute towards including marginalized communities. So we run our program, it's donor funded. So when there's no funding, we of course reach out to parents to try and pay for the program. So we have the threshold that's at least sometimes we even request a parent, can you sponsor your child and sponsor another child? So support can be many different ways. Gadgets, that's something that we're always requesting for support with. Currently, we're looking for virtual reality sets, we're looking for drones, and we're looking for robots. We have had donors that have come and donated a lot of resources, from getting us skilled workforce to getting us resources, especially like laptops, which is quite one of the products that we constantly need and use a lot of. So that's pretty much appreciated. Can I get back to
And
asking a question that I'd like you to address and get our listeners to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So Dr. Russ and Ms. Paula, as we go through the sort of what we're looking at as some sort of crisis on ensuring that our workforce can be able to not get so scared of AI, but look at how they can leverage, look at the opportunities that are presented by AI. I get back into looking at the work, the impact we've been able to create over the years, and it boils down to the readiness on soft skills. So how can we be able to ensure that from a very young age, I look at entrepreneurs as problem solvers, and we need a lot of them. When I look at creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and when I also look at when we look into, especially within the continent of Africa, we have so many graduates every day leaving universities, but they can't create their own jobs. They just don't know how to. The system has not enabled them to be able to think in a way that you have a software engineer graduating, but they still can't think about how about if I reach out to people in Global North who have the affordability and I can be able to create websites for them. I can position myself to be a digital marketer. We have, I think, up to 97% penetration of smartphones within the continent. And as Miss Paula said, I would emphasize on this is an amazing tool, and there's so many problems you can solve with that. So I don't know where the disconnect is. Is it still the kind of training we're doing, and how can we improve that and get it better? How can we ensure that our youth get to know they can create their own jobs? And as you can see with Green Tech, we start training from a very young age and ensuring that we all get to know. Thank you. The mic is yours.
Thank you. If I can I go, Dr. Roz, if I may, because this is a subject that I'm so passionate about. So, two things to your question. One of the reasons we're having such a problem with penetration, really, especially into the developing South or, the global South, is really the advent of the current education system. So we are still, while we have a fifth generational technical world that's upon us, we still have an ancient legacy system, an ancient legacy education system that is really focused on creating workers, right, for factories, while we are inside of a digital space and a digital world that really requires a different set of skills. So it isn't just the technical skills that are necessary. We have a lot of young people, to your point, Miss Allie, that's graduating from the universities on the continent and even in other developing nations, but lack the capacity to really understand how this knowledge, the knowledge that they've gained, can be applied, right? Especially when you integrate it with technology, can be applied into creating their own economic security, if I may. That's more the word that I'm looking for, not just to get paid, but to create economic security in the long term. That is the piece that is missing. This is why programs such as yours, such as Destination Imagination Africa, is so critical, because the way that the program is designed really is to breach the gap between um, having technical skills and really having the capacity, the knowledge, the technology knowledge, understanding how to utilize and leverage that in order to build a quality of life. It is possible. I mean, there are people that are making thousands, millions of dollars on the internet. And I do see now that there are more African young people that are getting involved. I see more African channels on YouTube. I see more presentation and representation in places like LinkedIn. And I don't do a whole lot of social media because, I'm old. I'm not, hey, I'm on something else. I have my hand in the soil. But when I do get on, I do see their interaction. And so I believe that it behooves us as citizens, as global citizens, to really begin to create the ecosystem where our young people can not just interact with this technology and with the oncoming technology, but to see the financial and the economic opportunities that are available. We cannot just wait on governments to do it. And we can't wait for people to change the education system. What we do is we advocate for change from the outside in by creating these programs that then creates a certain level of pressure on the institutions to adjust their curriculum, their perspective. And quite frankly, I'd love to see younger people getting into the sphere of higher education as instructors, as university instructors, so on and so forth, that can then bring that knowledge with them. I hope it's a long answer, but I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
It does. But as always, I'm sure Dr. Ras wants to add, so I'm going to give him the mic. Dr. Ras, I really have to get you. Yes.
Are you muted?
Dr. Ras, we can't hear you. And I can see there's a question from Stanley. Do you want to answer that question, Dr. Ras? I've put it on
I
the
would
screen.
love to, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. You can hear me. Okay. Yes, I see. I do want to follow up with what Miss Paula said. But I see Stanley asks, what are the most promising emerging technologies in green tech space, and how do you see them shaping in the next decade? Well, to be honest, the way technology is going, I'll answer the second part first. It's accelerating way too fast to really say what the next decade is like. It's hard enough trying to predict what the next 3 years are going to look like because of the acceleration of Gen AI and where we are with the technology. But I think we're going to see a revolution in um, I would say the food industry and the farming industry, agriculture as a whole. Right now, there's a big shift. Ag tech alone is about $18.6 billion annually, and from what I looked at, it's probably about 28% of the agricultural industrial company in the United States is utilizing precision ag tech. And precision ag tech is where it's at right now. And that's using AI and Gen AI technology. So real-time analysis to be able to analyze everything from farmer behavior to weather conditions to actually the composites and the nutrients of the soil and how that's being replenished and being impacted by water and erosion and everything else that goes into it. Looking at the whole food industry from farm to table and meaning transport and being able to look at routes of transport and being more accurate and more efficient in gas expenditure, all of these kind of things, the way we refrigerate and cool medicines. So there's a whole lot of technology. We can talk about the drones, or we can talk about the adaptability of this AI technology to regular, like farm tractors or farm machinery. We can talk about the industrial side of farming and building, textile side. We can talk about fiber, right? Creating materials, smart materials. There's so much here with agriculture and ag tech. Then there's all of that and the educational side of that. There's the creative, the engineering side of that. And that's why this is a science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, and of course, research, making it a whole stream. So I hope I answered your question, Stanley.
Thank you, Stanley. A very good question. Miss Paula, would you like to add to that?
I would, in fact, to his question of the most promising emerging technology really is artificial intelligence and its myriad of applications, to Dr. Roz's point, across the entire human value chain. So whether it's in social sciences, whether it's in health and wellness, whether it's going to be in food security, security itself, cybersecurity, and even on the personal scale, right? If you're a small business owner, if whatever it is you're doing, this artificial intelligence technology really is the most promising technology across the entire spectrum, because it really can transform production capacity, distribution, value chains, and I'm speaking globally. And so this is why it's so important that our children are really involved and introduced to these technologies, to these spheres, and the application of these technologies, the many different application of these technologies, whether you want to be an astronomer or you want to be a microbiologist, or you're a farmer, to Dr. Roz's point. This is really the most transformative technology that is really in the pipe right now, and it is getting even more sophisticated as we speak. I just wanted to add that piece. That's why programs such as this boot camp, this this boot camp, and everything that Destination Imagination is doing is so critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ross. Thank you, Ms. Paula. And a very good question. Thank you, Mr. Stanley. And you can keep them coming. You can keep on asking. Miss Ola, if you're right there, please come and give us your nuggets of wisdom in your cybersecurity space. And to all our listeners, could you be on Facebook, on YouTube, or on LinkedIn? Tell us where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer. I'm going to introduce a world-renowned environmentalist who sometimes the world can look so big yet so small, or is it so small yet so big? Because I only got to know him, which goes back to the Happiness Tribe. Through the Happiness Tribe, the collaborative efforts that we do. So Mr. Boniface was introduced to me by Miss Judith, they have actually worked together in other spaces in her corporate life and stuff like that. And he has his accolades that I don't want to talk about. I'll give the mic to him to introduce himself. He's an environmentalist. I think I have permission to say that, but I don't want to steal his voice. He'll introduce himself, he'll tell us about his impact, the work he's doing, and how we could collaborate together within these initiatives. And just when I speak so many nice things about you, Boniface, now it says device is not connected. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Okay, I think you're back.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for your invite. I am actually not an environmentalist by profession. I'm an environmentalist by passion. I'm a qualified accountant by profession who just jumped into environment by my background, where I was working in the corporate industry, in the credit department of the bank. And you realize the costs associated with the financing startups. If you look at the costing was so high when you have to buy material, when it was cheaper recycling. By that time, we promote recycling, but we know that there's an impact we are having on the environment by saying, well, by doing recycling, you're not just getting cheaper material, but the carbon footprint is greatly reduced. So I decided to look at it as an option whereby how then do we go strictly into the world of recycling rather than manufacturing, rather than exploiting virgin material and letting Earth enjoy its state as it is. Because much as we extract those resources, we just build them on the surface, disrupted and unable to go back to their natural state. So it became an interest to me. And where I am currently in Botswana, we realize that the current economic system is linear, buy, use, throw, or rather dump. So we are trying to change and transition ourselves from this linear economy to a circular economy, where we want to implement the extended producer responsibility and make people, or rather manufacturers, or rather the polluter pays principle, whereby be responsible for your wastes sustainably, and don't just post your millions in profits when your waste is lying in the drainage system, in the playgrounds, in the water systems and everything. So we are taking this fundamental step to say, let's transition this country from a linear to a circular economy. Among other things we do is restoration, definitely what we call resource conservation, and restoration activities for damaged environments. We are doing assisting in environmental planning wherever there's issues of planning and development. We are doing environmental impact assessments to see what are the impact of all the activities that are being done. So that has really put me in this space of environment, and I've actually become so passionate about anything that I do. And I also try to go out to people and say, whatever you do, look at it in terms of what is my impact to the environment in this activity that I'm undertaking at this particular time. Because as my mentor said, the late Wangari Maathai, if you don't take care of the environment will have no mercy upon us. So that's how I interpret everything I do in environment. Thank you.
That is so deep. And I know Miss Paula can't wait to jump in. And Miss Paula and Dr. Russ and anybody else on the call listening, please make sure that you write down. I think finally she became a doctor, but just write down Wangari Maathai and I'll type it here as well and check her work, because I think a lot of us in this space, she has been our inspiration. That the lessons we learned from her that are embedded in our way of life to an extent. To date, I can't stand people cutting down trees. And it's from the amazing work she did. The mic is yours, Miss Paula. I'm sure you want to add to that. And thank you so much, Boniface. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Miss Sally asked me to speak because she knows how I feel about this on a personal level. Where do I begin? It's all of it, right? Indeed, if we don't take care of this environment and take care of our planet, we're already paying quite a hefty price. I live in Belize where the hurricane season, the heat that we've been experiencing, I've been asking the elders, has it ever been this bad, or am I just tripping because I lived in the West for so long? They were like, no, we've never seen it this bad. It's quite a situation. And so, for the next generation, for my children, for my grandchildren that are coming, if they don't understand exactly what this is and how their actions or their choices can have such a direct impact on our weather, on the quality of our lives, then we would be remiss and we would not be doing our job. And so this is the reason why I support the work of Destination Imagination. And I tell them all the time when I speak to the young people, I tell them all the time, I said, you come from a history from ancestors who were environmentalists. They only took what they needed. We are the creators of STEAM and education and science. Imhotep. I go on and on with the young people, and I'm usually astonished, especially when I'm speaking to children of African descent, how little they know about our forebears and the culture that actually preserved this planet for so long before it was taken over by those who aren't as kind to or understand the value of the earth. I'm containing my language, I want to go ham. So so I do appreciate the work that you're doing, brother. We intend to be able to partner up so that we can get the children involved in doing little projects that can continue to really impact them so that they can understand the value of climate, environmental protection, and preservation. Thank you. I'll leave it there. Dr. Roz, you can take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Roz. I'm sure you have something you'd like to add to this, our resident scientist. Unmute your phone or unmute your device, sir. You can't hear me? Can you hear me, Dr. Roz? Well,
Dr. Russ,
I
yeah.
I
And
leave the floor.
I feel like he's joined us with a different device. I don't know which one you want to use, but you're in two places now,
Hello.
and you're gonna get an egg. Hi.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes, we can. Now we can.
Oh, okay. Hello. For some reason, I keep dropping out. Um, yes, thank you for that. Should I address the question on the screen or? Yes.
Yes, you
So it
can.
asks, Stanley, how do you address the challenge of balancing rapid innovation with environmental and regulatory compliance? Oh, that's a good one. I can answer that one. But before I answer that, you did ask a question. I tried to put it in the chat, but there's definitely companies that can talk about that have been successful in the ag tech space, whether it's on the farming side or it's on the processing, on the process side, it's the retail side. Since they're not paying me for promotion, we can talk about this in the DMs or via email, Stanley. But to address your current question here, how do you address the challenges of balancing the rapid innovation with environmental and regulatory compliance? The way you do it is by understanding, having a formula and understand the comprehension of the industry that you're in, the technology that you are utilizing within that industry, and the impact that it has on that market. So if you understand that, then you kind of will have to keep up with the laws that can regulate your ability to interact or sell.
I'd like to add. I'd like to add to that, Dr. Roz. to really and truly become an advocate in your position in your life, whether you're an individual, whether you work with a company, whether you are an entrepreneur, is really to be educated about what climate change is, what climate mitigation is, how the technology can benefit that, and to really examine production, whether you're producing a product, to examine your company's what's the word I'm looking for? Your company's policies in relationship to the environment. Are there any environmental concerns? You know, are there byproducts? How is the company handling that? So my advice would be to become an advocate, really, for climate sustainability, for climate and earth health and well-being. And you can do that in a variety of ways. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley will, but I see another question. Thank you very much for the response. I actually hope my tech tools are working pretty well, because this will be, we should share. You're sharing a lot of gems, a lot of wisdom that we all need to get this and share as well. I hope we have children listening, parents out there, please bring the children on board. Mr. Boniface, if you'd like to answer some of the questions, we have another one on how can local communities contribute to global climate resilience. I think that's a very good question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe communities have a big role to play. One thing we always underestimate is what we call indigenous knowledge. If you go to indigenous knowledge, there is vast how we have existed all these years. And most of it might not be documented. It's passed on generation to generation. Some of it comes in when an old man looks up the sky and says, I've never seen this flower on this tree. When you see this flower, there are going to be drought. I've never seen this bird fly through our sky. Whenever it flies, there's a problem. I've never seen this python, such a big python crossing through our land, which means there's something it's communicating. Now, that knowledge is what we are saying. We don't have scientific maybe explanation how they relate to these traditional phenomena, but it's out of that knowledge that you find now they'll start preparing the communities in time. If it is a certain bird, they say there are going to be floods. Harvest what you can harvest in time because things are going to be bad. This bird has already indicated it only comes at this particular time. So you find there's a lot of knowledge we need to capture. Sometimes I always say we need to see how we can document this, make a book of all this scanted knowledge or sentiments expressed by the old generation that they will help us to become who we are supposed to be, not who we are supposed to be. And as the song says, let's go back to what we used to do before. For me, that's the solution. If you look at our roof, up here, it's grass. I feel like I'm in a cold room already when it's hot out here. And if you look at how the grass was being harvested using the sickle, cut the grass, shape the top, sprinkle the seedlings back to the same soil, take what you want to go and roof your house. It has been here for the last 25 years. The thermostatic environment that I'm in, no air conditioning. The house is round. Round means there's no direct area hit by the sunshine. I mean, there are a lot of technologies that traditional African people had practiced those years. Building a house with the mud, with all those thermostatic, you find there's a lot of resilience that we can learn from our forefathers, how they lived through the days of the locusts, the days of storms of bees and everything. So all these things, it's there. If you go to Cameroon, they'll tell you this is what we used to do. So why don't we have a network of learning from each other and maintaining that practice? What is good? Let's keep it on. What is overtaken by time? Let's see if it can be adjusted to suit the current environment. So resilience is there in African systems. When we used to have storage, what I always say, this idea of hoarding, we never used to, as someone said, my friend said earlier, we never used to take what we don't want. We only used to take what we need at that particular time. And we used to know how do we store for bad times ahead, which we expect can come anytime. So this resilience, looking at issues of water and water management, water was life. Uh, I used to say in my culture, when you take dowry, a cow for dowry, you don't take the cow that doesn't have horns. It has to have horns, and that horns was to dignify that it's the reproductive system of a woman to bring life in the next generation. So some of those things we might look at them, why do they say they don't bring a cow without horns? But you find our African systems had a lot of appetite and desire to conserve continuity till propensity. So resilience is there in African systems. We unfortunately have come to incorporate other practices that are not sustainable. I still see us having the moment in Botswana, we have a lot of uh, wells being dug. And I was just questioning when you have issues to do with um, development, tarmacking the roads or paving the road, which is compacting and everything. Now, when it rains, the soil is so hard, there's no absorption of moisture. Now we have excess floods experienced. But then, how do we mitigate the situation? Why don't we dig what you call underground, what's the best term? Underground water filling up systems with this flood water. Why don't we have those practices? So we have all those things that we need to sit back and say, what do we do deliberately? If Sahara, they're having the Great Green Wall and it is growing, why can't we do it in our smallest places? And if I become responsible, you become responsible. Five of us become responsible. We'll influence five other people. So let's go back, see what they used to do. We still have old people who are 105, 110. They'll tell you, I've never tasted oil or salt. If they're telling us that, why don't we go back and just see, okay, let's see at your diet. What were you eating? Because they eat from the environment. Whatever they were consuming was from the environment. So we need to go back. It might look obscure or primitive to other people, but if it sustains Earth, let's go for it. Thank you.
So sure Miss Paula can't wait. So let me just, I won't even say anything.
I can't
You just touched
because
On how I work.
he is so on point, brother. You are so on point with your statement. Now, I am 700 years removed from my people that came from Mali and came to the West and settled here as explorers, right? But some of those traditions are so deeply embedded in our culture. This is one of the reasons why I'm always advocating, as part of the Board for Destination Imagination Africa, I'm always advocating the art piece in terms of STEAM, because the art really is a methodology. It's a vehicle for conveying traditional value systems and traditional information. And I say all the time that all the indigenous people of the planet really have the solution for climate change because of our attitude and our behavior towards the environment. To your point, and what I've said earlier, we only took what we needed, used what we needed, and we were really big into replenishing. So I'm Garifuna, but I am Garifuna. I'm an African person that my genealogy now is part of the Carib Indians and the Taino Indians in the West. When we came, we interbred with these people. So I have knowledge and belief systems that come down from both sides of the waters, so to speak. And it is in this is why it's so important for our children. And you said earlier that people may look at this belief system with the ancient people, with the old people, as something I don't know, something inappropriate, something that is very underdeveloped. And I push back against this with all the force. I'm saying, on the contrary, those of us that are the original people are the keepers of knowledge. And our children not only need, but deserve that knowledge. The reason why they're having such a hard time is because we've rejected the ancients. We've rejected our belief system because someone came and told us that there was something under evolve about us, that we were underdeveloped. And I would argue we were highly developed. All the cultures on the African continent, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, the Bantu, I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. Our children need this information. Not only do they need this information, it's critical that they understand their contribution to global civilization. And Destination Imagination is creating programs that includes and integrates those kinds of knowledge into the program. This is why this is so important. This is why the other day, let me just give you an example. A few days ago, my mother said to me, out of the blue, we were sitting, it was dusk. We were sitting out here in the veranda, and there were these white birds in the sky. It was a clear sky, even though it was getting dark. And she said, oh no, she said, white birds, we're going to have flooding. Those are water birds. And I swear to God, overnight it rained 2 days straight. She said to me, she said, clean out the barrels, set the barrels so we can collect rainwater. And I did. We now have rainwater. They're filled. But it's that kind of a knowledge that seemed like it doesn't matter, that is so critical to the survival of our children, because this climate stuff is going to get worse before it gets better. I can go on and on. I'll stop there. But this is a perfect example of what you were saying, brother. And this is why we need to embrace who we are, where we come from, the knowledge that's been handed down to us, even if it's just orally, and inculcate that knowledge to our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm just seeing a question by Stanley, maybe adding, in your opinion, what role should the government and policymakers play in accelerating adoption of clean technologies? There's a lot. And I always say the government might play a role, deficient as it might be. However, we need to look at civil society. Civil society comes to play because governments, as we know in Africa, electioneering comes. Out electioneering, you start electioneering for your next election. So there's no time to do policy documents and look at intrinsically what affects this, the nation. I've always say, if the government was to go into the whole adoption of clean technologies, they need to put up policies. We have research documents already in place. They need to see what do we accept to be a normal idea and what is not. For example, we were in a meeting arguing today. Why are schools in Kenya still demanding kids to buy books? You buy a whole books, if you carry them on your shoulders, your back is aching because of the weight of the books. Yet Kenya, as advanced as it is, they can be able to buy books on PDF and you're given a passcode with your laptop. Put your CD-ROM into your laptop, put in your code, and if it's Geography Class 6, you'll have the document in your laptop, read, and the teacher is at the front. He's teaching, open page so-and-so. You don't make a book and start reading, because how many trees have been cut to enable those books to be published? So why do we fear to adapt to this technology? So the government should be taking a decision and not turn around about the decision, because you know what is right. So the government knows, but sometimes because of, I always say, a capitalist attitude, if I do this, I will be removing so-and-so from business. And that's where I get my daily bread. So there'll be what we call lukewarm implementation of certain stringent policies that they know are positive for the environment. So the government will be there to satisfy, to some extent, the corporate, because that's where they get the tax. So how can they make regulations that affect the hand that give it them? So you need to be very practical and say, let the civil society play a lead role by making sure that they make the government toe the line. Otherwise, if we wait for the government, most of the time, we will wait and leave Earth before the government really sit back and says, we have identified this as a way forward, because they like to match themselves with the developed Western side. So they can't. But I always say, sometimes it's how how soft is the government, and how good is that leader in that position? How responsive is he? Because once a leader goes, who is responsive? The others who come in, they don't follow the footsteps. They want to have their own mark. So if you come in with this, they'll come in and overturn the same. So I'm not so sure how best we can look at the governance system in terms of technology, but let's believe that the civil society should lead and take that footstep in dictating to the government on what they need to do through advocacy systems and doing what you call community awareness. Let the community look at it and say, okay, if I'll buy this book at $150, why not buy a CD-ROM, which is $20 or so, and pay for the book at a lesser price because you didn't print, you didn't do the ink, everything has been lessened. But now you just buy a technology, which is a computer or laptop, that you can be able to get that information projecting on the screen. So we have to look at what is good and what is sustainable and show practically this is better than the old format. The publisher will still get his allowance and life continues. Sorry for talking too much. Thank you.
Mm.
You
I'd
are
like
so
to
deep.
go ahead, Miss Sally. I'm sorry.
No, I just think you are so deep, Mr. Boniface, and that's much appreciated. Yes, Miss Paula, and I'm sure Dr. Ras is itching.
I would just like to add that's why these kinds of programs are important. And why does it matter? Because the parents, the grandparents, are really the sleeping giants. We are the people who can change our system so quickly it would make people's heads spin. Why is that? It's like that because we are the parents who are paying our children's school fees. We are the parents who are voting. We are the parents. If we organize and we get our children involved in programs such as this, and we show them why it's important, and we support their development through programs such as Destination Imagination and this boot camp, right? This is the bulwark against keeping things the status quo, right? So if books are an issue and books need to be digitized, and our children realize that we're cutting down too many trees to produce books, we become the advocates. Our children become the advocates. They're going to be taking the reins. That's why programs such as this is so important. That's why, as a parent, as a grandparent, it behooves me to send my children, to put that investment into my children and my grandchildren by having them attend programs such as this and to guide their development. Right. Oftentimes, there's too many of us on this planet that are sitting down as spectators, and we can complain about the things, but we're not doing and taking the position. Become an advocate, write a letter, organize some teachers, some parents, and say, listen, these are the programs we want. We want Destination Imagination in our high school, in our elementary school, in our tertiary university systems. Right. And let's just get together as parents, because we vote with our dollars. If we're not going to send our children to schools or spend money on things that we think can be handled much differently, and we organize behind that, we can create change, and it can be almost instantaneous. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We actually need to lead from the front and collectively and just strictly say no to this. I know it's easier said than done, but if each one of us would rise up to the occasion, we could move, we could make some steps. Over to you, my dear Dr. Raras.
How is my audio? Mic check, mic check. Are we good?
We're good, we're good.
Yes. Excellent. All right. So yeah, there was so much said. I don't even know where to begin, but I know given time I can't begin from the beginning. But I did want to add to what was said about what the government can do and really putting the onus on the people, which is where it ended up as well with Miss Paula. And so, with some guidance in that, I think an important thing to focus on is understanding or making it clear the distinction when we think about these technologies and everything we're talking about. There has to be a distinction between R&D, research, and retail, because in retail, that's where money pushes everything. And now this is where individuals are bought out because it's the bottom dollar is the whole point of that in whatever you're selling, whatever this technology is. In the R&D side, however, right, when you're allowed the freedom to do that, then you have the science and the technology, the engineering will drive the force of that and where things are going. And so being able to understand when it comes to government and government regulations and what we're talking about in this technology is understanding that you have to have regulations on the retail side to keep individuals safe as you sell products and services to your citizens and to individuals globally, right? But you have to have some onus and responsibility um, on that. But on the other, we have to have it such that there are recommendations that will allow and laws that allow for the technology to be researched, comprehend, and expanded upon so we can get to that next level. And because when we confuse the two, it puts a lot of hamper on what's happening on the research and development side, which slows things down. I hope that makes sense, the point I'm making there.
It does, Dr. Ross. It does.
Yeah, makes sense. It does, and I think it's if we can keep at it, we're gonna get somewhere. So far, we've made some steps. I was reflecting on where, because sometimes it's very easy for us to sit back and feel like there's no much progress and get disgruntled. And then this morning, I just reflected on where we're coming from. We were able to navigate through COVID-19. Think about it. And that's something that we also like, it was going to wipe humanity out of our existence. Nobody knew how to deal with it, nobody knew what to do. So even now, yes, it's scary to deal with the disruptive AI, geopolitics, a future we don't know what it looks like, AI that's disrupting us every day, cybersecurity that we're getting attacked from right, left, and center. But guess what? We are smarter than we know, and we got this. We're gonna come up with solutions. However, boots on the
Miss Tim?
ground. Yes, please.
Sorry, I wanted you said something that struck something in my mind, and I wanted to because it just hit me right with this Green Ranger boot camp and what we're talking about and everything we just heard, right? If you're in the situation where you're a parent or you're responsible for some youth in a matter for educating or experience, what have you, if you believe that these kids are not engaging in technology, that's a confound. That's not true. And if you believe these kids aren't getting back outside because of exactly what you said with the COVID thing, it's kind of been actually like a refactory or recovery from the COVID, where now there is actually a seek, right, and a drive and a motivation for the youth to get back in physical contact and to be physically engaging and outside. And we can see that, right? So they are one interested in and more interested in engaging in the outside, and they actually are engaging in the technology more so than the adults. It's just that we don't understand in every aspect and avenue of how they're using this. Because just to the point as we talked about before, where there's youth and youth organizations using these technologies to create independent political systems, independent financial systems, independent social systems, right? So I just wanted to make that reminder that it is happening, and this is just a structured way of being able to identify and support that. Thank you.
Yes, it is happening in much more, as if we can keep on creating this awareness and keep on preaching tech for good. And of course, like what one of the things that we're going to do, the activities within this upcoming boot camp is blend in the green tech, the whole philosophy of you don't have to be an iPad kid, you don't have to be addicted to this, you need to balance, you need to work on the whole system, you as a human being. There's going to be a lot of mentorship. There's going to be teaching them how to be responsible as we use technology. Of course, cybersecurity, it's a concern, especially as we address children. And another reason, this is a call for action. Support can be you bring a program that we can train the children on. Mr. Boniface, I think you'll be a very important person on this, where we address youth, children. The last boot camp, we had a sponsor who came and planted fruit trees and vegetables with children. And the most exciting thing is when those children now, they take pictures and send them to us, updating us. Look at my cabbage, look at my potato, look at my spinach. How awesome is that? And of course, as we live in the cities, I've had situations where I've met adults who don't know where our carrots come from, adults who don't know exactly how we grow potatoes. How sad is that? And we all have space that we can grow our little kitchen gardens. And we know food security is a major concern. Miss Paula, there was a question that I think I'd love you to answer. I think, Mr. Boniface, you touched on this, but if you can all add a point on this, because I think this is very, very critical. And there's so many answers to this. If you can each give a point on this, I think it would be great. It could benefit a lot of people. Thank you.
Miss Sally, if you're addressing me, I only heard
Yes.
part of what you said. I'm sorry. My signal seemed to wane in and out, and there is something going on. And okay, now I can hear. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? Because I missed part of that.
I'm requesting, I don't know if you're able to read the screen. I've put a question from one of our listeners on LinkedIn who says, how can local communities contribute to global climate resilience? Which I'm requesting all of you, our speakers, if you can all give a point, each a point towards this. This is it's a crisis as we know it, and we need to keep on addressing it. That would be much appreciated.
So this is a two-part question, and I've mentioned it before. The first thing that you can do is support Destination Imagination Africa in the work that it is doing with children in educating them through immersive engagement with nature, with technology. It really is a marriage amongst a few different variables that are necessary in order to create agency with our children. Our children need the opportunity to understand what the challenges are because they see it, they're living it. And to give them, to help us provide them the equipment to be able to, or the space, the ecosystem for creating solutions to some of this. That's the first thing. So you can support organizations such as Destination Imagination Africa, Botswana. The second thing is really to become an advocate for change. And we can do this individually. So if I'm an individual and I may not be able to go there, I'm in Belize. I'm thousands of miles away from Africa, but I provide support with the knowledge that I have, with helping to build projects, with helping to build the organization, the back end of the organization, the administrative and the operations side, marketing. We need human capital that can help us to promote the work that we're doing so that we can create a critical mass. That's important. And if not, if you just have the money, sponsor some children, right? Send some money, sponsor some drones, for instance, or something that Destination Imagination requires. And when we're done, Miss Sally, please, I'm gonna mute here, but when you're done, please provide the information for how donors, strategic partners, sponsors, how they can get in contact with Destination Imagination and what that process would look like. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. Over to you, Dr. Russ.
Okay, can you hear me again? I want to make sure I'm not having any audio trouble.
Yes, we can.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you guys for sticking around for the last hour and a half here. So I would say then Miss Paula did 1 and 2, and I liked her number 1. So don't call me a biter, but my number 3 would be support Destination Imagination Africa. I know it's a repeat, just like number 1, but repeat. Support Destination Imagination Africa, specifically Botswana. We got an event coming up at the end of the month. So reach out to Miss Kim for that. But really, my answer for this is what can local communities do to support the national effort is this. So if you can determine what is the national month or day for a specific effort of your choosing, of your liking, of what you want to address that issue. Now, when we say local communities, are you talking a group of friends, a couple people, an organization, a profit, nonprofit, a city organization? Depending on the level of the organization, when you say local community, you can create a local day, right? Create a day that acknowledges and mirrors what's happening on the national level and your local community to address that issue. And that's how you can contribute. Again, if you're speaking of climate change, right? There's a national month and a national time that you address climate issue, or you can, if you can even choose your own, right? And try to instill on a legal level in your local council, city council, or depending on whatever level, even if it's grassroots organizational, decree a day and bring awareness to your community. That's how you can have that impact.
And may I add, can I add here that you actually can utilize the technology, utilize social media to engage your audience, to generate some more interest and to generate additional support, whether it's financial, whether it's different resources that that may be needed in order for specific local, very local programs, projects. Pick up the plastics. The brother's got a program for picking up plastics. Maybe create a workshop on how you can utilize that plastic to create trash bins around the town or the city. I mean, there's lots of different ways this can be done. Thank you.
Absolutely. I love those great ideas. Mr. Boniface?
Personally, what I look at when you talk about local communities and the resilience is issues to do with um, awareness creation. I believe one aspect that communities don't understand is awareness. I was just talking to someone and explaining how do you how do we say firewood increases carbon in the atmosphere, and most of the people don't understand that when we say trees actually emit oxygen and absorb that carbon, where does that carbon end up? That's in the tree trunks and other places. So when you burn, the carbon now is oxidized to carbon dioxide. So it's a little bit complicated when you go to biology, physics, those explanations. But if you tell a person the tree gave you oxygen and removed carbon, it's storing it in itself. Once you cut it, less oxygen coming out, and more carbon staying, going to be offloaded. So you find how we change that knowledge and make it more practical, and also teaching people alternatives that can still achieve the same objective. I've been talking about trying to implement, for example, issues to do with biogas. In Botswana, people still value cattle as an indicator of wealth. Cattle, we know how much it does damage in terms of CO2. So how then do we merge this cattle you have with biogas? And how do we demystify cattle as an indicator of wealth and look at alternatives? Because if we harvest, we extract our resources from the environment, then how then do we have equity in how we exploit those resources? So I believe this aspect of education and programs, deliberate programs and prototypes that are given to communities that now become learning points, and people go out and see if this is working here, why not implement it? If I have a biogas, for example, which gives an alternative to LPG gas, and it's waste I'm using, and I'm getting fertilizer to put in my farm to increase my output, and I'm having organic insecticides and everything. So you find we need to have those programs, practical pilot sessions where people can come and learn, experience, and go and replicate the same in their households. That's the part I believe should be more practical for us to have an impact on the communities. Thank you.
Love that. I truly love that. Those little prototypes where it's show and tell. I'm not talking about things that can be done, but I'm taking you to my kitchen garden and practically showing you how I'm
Definitely.
able to use my vegetables. That speaks volumes. I suppose we need to continue with the conversation. We need to keep on engaging people. I have beautiful comments. I see Olabimpe, our very own cybersecurity police officer, coming live all the way from Nigeria. She says she's so glad we're including cybersecurity in the boot camp. We have beautiful comments from Stanley, who has a lot of good questions. And we're getting on top of the hour. So some of your questions, I think I'll get back and respond to them. I'll request the speakers to send me some feedback so that we can answer all the questions. Very good questions. One of them is, how can alumni, local businesses, and governments collaborate to create sustainable funding pipelines for destination migration programs across the continent? A very good question. And similar programs, because there are plenty. Are there specific grants, sponsorship programs, or partnerships available for youth innovation initiatives like Destination Imagination? And how can teams tap into these resources? I'd love to share that because being in the donor space, I come across a lot of grants. There's a very nice grant from MasterCard going on. There's one EU is putting together. Those are grants mostly for sub-Saharan Africa, and I'd be happy. What are the primary challenges teams face in securing funding for DI projects across Africa, and how can they address them? I'd love to give you some of our best practices. We've learned bootstrapping, going lean, recycling, and using recycled tools. And just emphasizing that STEAM education doesn't have to be a shiny brand new iPad. We use a lot of tools that have been used by others. We get corporates that pass over to us used laptops, and they do a pretty good job. We ask communities to contribute, bring what they are. And for us to be sustainable, that's why we run our organizations as a social enterprise. So we commercialize some of the projects we do. Actually, one of them is I'm a books author, I'm a writer, I'm an author, and this book has actually seen us through the year. It's a STEAM education book, very much learner-centered with beautiful pictures. It's a workbook that kids get to personalize and make use of. It has a lot of resources and skills for kids. And then we run private businesses that constantly support what we do in our social enterprise. And when I would love to encourage everyone to write a book. The world needs books. Our children need books. And that's what we call paying it forward. When you write books, and these days, our books, we have a digital platform where you can access our books. We have a website, an e-commerce website. A lot of our books are free, and those that we sell, they go for $2, $3, $1, literally making them accessible and affordable to everyone. So this has been quite insightful. I suppose we've learned a lot. I want to believe our viewers, you've enjoyed the show. Please note, we're going to have this show repeated every Tuesday, 4 p.m. South African time, and Thursday, 4 p.m. So we are live again tomorrow. Please join us, and we'll have hopefully the same speakers will be available to join us. We'll try our best to keep it to 1 hour. We very much appreciate and value your time, and we so much share the wisdom you bring. This is a community project. The village has woken up and the village has decided. So I'm just going to give the mic to each one of you to do your closing remarks. Can we start with Dr. Ras before he goes frying his fish?
Okay now. So I would like to thank you, Miss Kim, for putting on, first of all, making this space available. Um, I don't know if you had a slide up there. Can you go back to your, I guess, the last slide that you had? There was something there I wanted to mention. Um, I'll tell you when I see it. It's not that one right there. Go back. Right there, right there. I wanted to, yeah. So this was part of my outro, guys. So for here, join the Greentech Rangers, right? Embarking on an unforgettable adventure. I wanted to say with this, unless you don't want, or I should say, only if you want to witness your child's confidence grow. If you do, you have to check out Greentech Rangers boot camp coming up. Okay, it's going to be an exciting time, and I really think from the activities in the last boot camp and from the testimonies and responses, it's something you guys don't want to miss. We're also looking to have, for you guys who are attending virtually, right? So we've increased this virtual component where, so if you're into fashion, we have a sneaker company that designs sneakers in AR, artificial reality. They're willing to put on a 2-hour session at the boot camp. But not only that, for a small additional fee, you can do this competition. Basically, for $10, which is $5 per shoe, you get to design your own shoe, and then the students of the camp are going to choose a winner. And whichever shoe design wins, we have another company that is actually a clothing company and a shoe company. They are going to manufacture the winning design and shoe and give to the winner. So we have that going on. We also will be having thinking about writing a book and telling your stories. We have AI technology. Again, we're going to have a boot camp for storytelling, where you can use AI technology to help you tell a story. And then we're going to have some winners from that as well. So there's a number of virtual things that we will be doing that should be exciting and fun. There should also, because of the time of the year, we'll have a lot of AR and virtual reality Halloween and spooky Halloween stuff, because in the US around that time it is Halloween. Okay, that's it. That's all I got.
That is super exciting. I think at this point very soon we should discuss a boot camp for mommies. Even as adults, we want to enjoy that. Must be super cool to make sneakers. Thank you. Miss Paula, your last words?
Oh, what can I say? This is not only timely, but it's absolutely necessary. In order for our children to compete in this quickly changing world, we have to equip them with the right knowledge. So it's technical knowledge, but it's also soft skills. And it helps them to build a quality of life um, down the line. And we know this because we've been collecting this data. Destination Imagination has been collecting the data for years. And we have some of our original students now and participants that are now at the university level that are doing awesome work. So please, this matters. It matters on a personal level, it matters on a local level, and it does matter on a global level. So help us take care of what we need to get our children equipped and ready and position them for growth, and the continent of Africa for growth across the board. Thank you all so much for visiting with us today.
Thank you very much, Miss Paula. Mr. Boniface, you have your parting shot?
Personally, I'm appreciative of this session. Actually, it's the first time to get to this session, to know that such a program exists where you can share information and experiences. And for me, it's quite engaging, very informative. And I believe the platform really enables us to have a united front on issues that are confronting us socially, economically, even in terms of our mental growth. So I'm so happy to be part of it. I thank God that I was invited to listen and join this session. And I'm looking forward to future sessions and also spread word around my peers and colleagues of such an important session so that they can also be able to come in. We have kids. Let our kids join other kids and see how they can grow in all aspects of life, because a child only schooled at school is not an educated child. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is quite informative. I have truly enjoyed. I hope our listeners joining us from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, you have enjoyed this. Please leave us with some comments if you have some questions. If you'd like to know more about what we do, you'd like to collaborate or partner with us, we are open for that. This is a community project. And like I said, the village has risen up to the occasion. And we need to create a sustainable future where innovation, nature, and business can work in harmony. So every step we can make to clean technology brings us closer to a greener planet. And that's what we all need. So let's be able to bring everyone on board, from entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, especially policymakers. I can only emphasize that again and again, because you know where sometimes we get cut beneath our knees, and communities. So the choices we make today, it should be very clear. We will know this is what will determine the world we leave behind. So let's be innovative. Let's act responsibly. Let's push beyond the borders of possibilities. Let's proudly say we were here, we witnessed, and we played our role. Let's make a better world. Let's create the Africa we want. It can be done, and we are the ones we've been waiting for. Thank
Miss
you.
Miss
Thank
Kim,
you.
Miss Kim, I'm sorry, I can't let you go. I cannot let you go without having to say I'm gonna shamelessly plug right now, but every Sunday, but specifically this Sunday, and can you give the time in Botswana time? But THC, the Happiness Tribe, is having a one of a two-part episode on oncology, which is cancer, and well-being, and it's going to be from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Sunday mornings. A LinkedIn audio room live that will be streamed on social media as well. But we will be talking about cancer, so oncology and well-being. And we actually, it's a two-parter, so it'll be this Sunday coming up as well as the following Sunday, and we'll be talking about it from a number of perspectives, from actually professionals as well as family members, as research as well as medical. So please tune in. That is the Happiness Tribe LinkedIn audio room live, episode 55 and 56, this Sunday and next Sunday at 10 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is what time in Botswana, Miss Kim?
It's 4 p.m. South African time.
There you go, people. You heard it. This Sunday, 4 p.m. Tune in for Oncology and Well-Being, episode 55 of a two-parter, 55 and 56, The Happiness Tribe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ras. I wouldn't know what to do without you. Can there be the happiness tribe without Dr. Ras, Miss Paula? We would close shop.
I don't think we would be, not in the iteration that we're in. And just so the audience know, the Happiness Tribe supports local businesses, local entrepreneurs. So please join. If you haven't joined, follow us and get information, a lot of valuable information that you can apply both in your personal and in your professional lives. And if you're trying to build a business, all of that is there. So join us. And also support Destination Imagination Africa in the work that they're doing, especially with this boot camp. Miss Sally, can you please tell them again when the boot camp is and what the cost is and how they can reach you?
Thank you. I actually forgot the most important part, right? so,
Okay.
so we are having 2 days of public holiday where we are going through our elections. We're very democratic, we're very responsible with our governance and the rule of law in Botswana. So on 30th, we're going to take advantage of those 2 days and teach our children their civic education. When parents go to vote, we'll take children on 30th, they will sleep over at Mokolodi Nature Reserve, and 31st, 2 nights, and they'll come back home on the 1st. So those are going to be 3 days, 2 nights. And the bootcamp cost is 2,950 hula. That's full board, including their accommodation, their trip to Mokolodi, their catering, where we eat good food and have a lot of fun, the resources for training them. So all we need is your child with a little bag, no blankets, no beddings, packing, everything is sorted, just a little bag and a lot of good energy, just good vibe. That's what we want them to bring. So, and for those ones who will join us virtually, we are charging $30 for the sessions that will have Dr. Ras, Miss Paula, and other community members joining us. There will be space exploration. We're going to do a lot of stargazing. We'll do tracking, animal tracking. Can you imagine? Where you can virtually join us, and we'll be tracking using virtual reality sets and drones, tracking rhinos, tracking leopards, and getting to learn to study the ecosystem and how we can coexist. And of course, there'll be a lot of conversations going on climate change and well-being. So do join us. There's a lot of information on our website, on our social media platforms, and you can reach out if you want to know how to enroll. We are strictly only taking 70 learners. We are only left with, I think, about 15 slots. We usually take a small number so that we can be able to manage it. So join us, enroll, and let's have fun and build a better world. If you would like to sponsor some children, that will be very much appreciated. We have PayPal accounts and we have banking details that we can send them to you. You can reach out and you can transfer some funds and pay it forward. Thank you, thank you. This has been a pleasure. And I think now it's time to say goodbye. If I'm allowed to. Thank you, Mr. Bonfast.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you, Miss Paula.
Bye.
And Miss Paula, send my love to Mama and tell her we
No.
really appreciate her presence. And tell her next time she's presenting.
Thank you so much, Miss Sally.
Tell
You all
Mama
have
next time she's presenting. Thank
I
you and
know.
goodbye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Cheers.